So, welcome to the Deke Snipe Selly podcast. We got a special guest episode for you today. But before we get into that, I got to do a shout out to our gracious sponsor, PHG Sports out of Ontario. You know them best from the Costco warehouse, basically roadshow that they're a part of. They've also got a store in Ontario that they're running on the regular. Yeah, I believe in Whitby, if I'm not mistaken. But in any case, they got a store that they're open hours, and check them out on phgsports.com. You'll see that running across to the bottom of your screen there. So make sure to check out phgsports.com if you want the best in memorabilia. Go where the pros sign, and that's PHG Sports. So thank you guys again for supporting the DSC podcast, and we've got a special guest about to pop on. I'm not going to tell you too much. One of the greatest officials of all time, one of the greatest to ever lace them up, Mr. Paul Devorski. But until we roll that intro, that's all you're going to get. So titter tatter, let's get at her.
Okay.
So, folks, we got a special guest today. It's a special guest episode of the Deke Snipe Selly podcast. We've got one of the native sons of Guelph, Ontario. Now lives stateside. Unfortunately, no one's perfect. That's okay. He's refereed internationally in 2006 and 2010 at the Olympic Games. I believe, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, but I believe he even refereed the gold medal game in 2006, Finland, Sweden. We'll talk about that. Veteran of 97 Stanley Cup playoff games as a referee and 1,594 NHL games spanning a 26-year career. One of the greatest referees to ever ref sport, number 10, Mr. Paul Devorski. Welcome to the show, Paul.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Thanks for having me. So, in Pennsylvania currently?
Hershey, where they make the chocolate.
Oh, nice. The Hershey Bears is what I remember.
Yeah, you should see the people that are here for, like, we have a big Hershey Park here.
Yeah.
Amusement park, and we get people all over New York, Maryland, New Jersey.
Actually, it's funny. I had somebody tell me about that, and she's from Philadelphia. She said the Hershey, like going into Hershey, she told me the things to do if you ever make it down there, and that was one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We live about 4 streets off the main street here in Hershey, but it's a small town, so.
Yeah.
We're all avid Leafs fans, unfortunately. I don't know if that's good or bad for you, but we all grew up Leafs fans. That's how we know each other. So we're diehards and disappointed ones at that.
Yeah, it's not bad for Paul, it's bad for us.
Yeah, fair. It is what it is.
Well, I grew up in Guelph, Ontario, which was about an hour from the Toronto Arena downtown.
Yeah.
So
you're familiar with the passion and the disappointment.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a Newfoundland-based podcast, and we always like to open up with that because it seems like all of our guests have a connection or a tie or something. They've been here, they know someone from here, they played with someone from here. Any connections to the island, Paul?
Oh my God, I had such a great time when I was in Newfoundland. You know, repping the American League.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, back in the Maple Leafs days.
It was unbelievable. And I met some girl, and I think she thought I was taking her off the island after the playoffs. But that was the last I saw of her. So
it was nice of you to leave her for us.
Yeah.
Did you make it to George Street?
Oh yes, I did.
Yeah.
That
old Memorial Stadium was good times. Yeah, that was a real heart and soul.
Oh, all the players just love going to Newfoundland too.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, you're going on a road trip, and hey, we're going to Newfoundland. Hey, we're gonna have fun.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. It's got its own little charm.
No, we've lost a lot of women over the years. I mean, the St. John's Maple Leafs era was hard on the population of women in Newfoundland. Players would come in, they'd scoop them up, and I didn't realize referees were in on that mass exodus of ladies as well. But there you go. You learn something new every day.
back then we were all in the bar together.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could have been
Win or
anyone.
lose, we were in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome times.
I was just breaking into the bar scene downtown myself when right before the AHL pulled out the first time, and great memories of going down there and running into future NHL players and whatnot. It was everyone and I gained a lot of respect for the way hockey players are off the ice too. I mean the boys are animals on the ice, but I mean the guys are truly good for the most part, truly good gentlemen. Like they're just casual, the guys like everyone else. They don't act like celebrities that you would typically expect from professional athletes.
You know what? And they're all pretty good. Like they all say hi. If they recognize you, they say hi and how's it going? And all the coaches are good.
Yeah,
that's a good group of people.
Yeah, we've been blessed with a lot of great hockey over the years. Between 20 years of AHL hockey between Toronto and St. John's, Maple Leafs when they were here, and then the Ice Caps for a few years there, not so long ago, and now recently with the ECHL, we had our first championship for the island, which was a big deal when the Growlers brought home the Kelly Cup. So now we've been blessed with a lot of good hockey over the years, and something that we're very proud to be a small part of in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
So, we've had a lot of great names pass through St. John's, and yours is certainly one of them. But yeah, we want to get you on, Paul. You've been I grew up watching the games. I mean, that's where I fell in love with hockey was your era when you were reffing in the 90s. Basically, that was my bag. That's when I really fell in love with the sport. And I've seen some like video clips and pictures of yourself and great moments, just great and pictured with great players. Like Curtis Joseph, Matt Sundin. Those are the guys I grew up rooting for, and I always see you rubbing shoulders with those guys in the pictures. And I'm just curious, do you have is there any memories that stick out, player interactions between whistles, different little stories that you could tell that are worth worth an ear?
You know what? I had a real good rapport with the players and the coaches, and I remember one night back in the day when Mario was playing, we didn't call many penalties back then.
No.
Like today's standard.
Mm-hmm.
And poor Mario would be getting hooked and holded, and I remember him coming down, getting hooked down, and he looked over at me across the red line and saw my arm wasn't going up, and he just threw his stick along the ice, and I kept skating, and it went right behind me. And my linesman that night was Leon Stickle, if you guys remember him.
Yep.
He came skate. He says, Devo, you didn't see that. You didn't see that. He says, you're not throwing Mario in the out. This is okay. And then he kept playing on, and and to this day I have a great rapport with Mario.
Excellent.
When I see him in Pittsburgh and that, it's good.
But I can recall, like, Mario, I think he's probably where this whole obstruction hooking and the whole idea of an obstruction penalty. I remember in the mid-90s when he was quite vocal in the media and talking about the hooking and all that going through the neutral zone. And I don't know, you would know the penalties, this is early 90s, but I had never heard of obstruction. It was either hooking or tripping or anything like this. And it seems like he changed that part of the game. And he was a big boy. So you can only imagine.
Well, and the game is so fast now.
Yeah.
Can you imagine Mario out there now with nobody clutching and grabbing? How many points the guy would have had?
Oh, it'd be insane.
Huge. Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, it would be
so
insane.
good.
And there's another story I remember. Todd Richards was coaching, I believe it was Tampa Bay. I'm not sure. And I put my arm up one night to call a penalty. And as I put an arm up, I'm going, oh my God, this is a horse shit penalty. So I blow the whistle, put the guy in the box, and I skate over, and I'm standing in front of the bench. I said, Toddy, I just got to tell you, that's the worst penalty I've ever freaking called in my life. He says, okay, Devo, thanks for being honest, you know. So I turn around and put my hands on my knees, ready for the face-off. And all I hear in from behind me, okay, guys, let's kill this one off for Devo. That's Todd Richards.
That's awesome. But that's really good.
I lost.
Yeah.
That's good though.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
how are
that's
the
respect.
fans? How are the fans treating you off the ice? Like, yeah, people getting crazy all the time.
Not so much. I mean, I did my last game in Philly, and like they're tough fans.
Oh, definitely.
Eh?
Gritty is real.
Yeah. And they were gonna do put something up on the Jumbotron in the first period sometime. And the first 4 penalties I called were against Philly. So all of a sudden you hear the ref, you suck. Chant. And getting loud and loud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the guy calls me over at the commercial time. He says, hey, Devo, we're going to hold off.
Yeah, we don't want everybody booing.
I said, okay, fine.
Yeah.
So anyways, they did it in the third. And I'll tell you what, I got a great big standing ovation from the fans.
Yeah.
So, you know, they get mad, but they're good fans, you know.
Yeah. And from what I remember, you never had that
I
reputation
wanted to
either.
do it. Yeah.
Was there something about, I think it was the 80s, when did it change where refs got rid of the name on the back of their jerseys? And did that have anything to do with it? Like, I can't recall it if they had, did you have your name ever on the back of your jersey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a few jerseys at home here with my name on it, but
Was there any particular reason why they got rid of that? Was it because of fans or?
I don't know whether they wanted to take the referees out of the limelight, you know, and so they wouldn't be recognized as much. But I mean, it didn't matter to us guys. Like you guys, you know, I was number 10, and anybody watch hockey knew who number 10 was.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
We grew up at a time when the referees had hockey cards as well. I mean, I still got my Paul Devorski Pro Set 93 card. I'm pretty sure in the binder in there somewhere.
I do too.
Yeah. So I have a card too with when I'm taking a picture, and it's with that Devorski on the back, and I had no helmet on either. So
no.
So you switched to the helmet. I think I read somewhere it was like 2005 or 2006 season or somewhere along the way. Was there anything particularly that pushed you in that direction? That was there any, you know, did you see some or kind of?
It wasn't us guys. I think it was the league per se, and because they weren't letting any players on the ice with without helmets. So and they said, you know what, just for you know, to cover our ass, you guys better wear a helmet. So.
That's right. Yeah. It's going to head there anyway, right? It's eventually going to end up that way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. There's such a focus on head injuries in the last couple of years. We've talked a lot about it on this podcast, concussions and everything else. And I mean, it's no big shock that they're trying to get as far away from that as possible. But anyway, back to the career. So you to put it in perspective for the young crowd who watch our podcast, we do have a few young fans. Paul's first game was in Hartford with the Hartford Whalers. for those of you who remember the Hartford Whalers, that was Paul's first game in the league. What do you remember from that night, Paul? I mean, you're called up, and it's the show. It's all the pressure, you know.
Well, I remember I flew my dad down. I was still living in Guelph, and him and I flew down together from Hartford. He was a referee in the OHA for 35 years, doing junior A and senior A. And he wanted to come down. And I did the game. It was a one man with Kevin Collins and Brian Murphy. And I just remember, going on the ice and Joel Quenville was playing defense.
Wow.
Coach Q.
He played here.
Yeah. And
Joel Quenville and Kay Whitmore was one of the goalies for Hartford. And who was it else? Brad Tippett or something. Yeah, he was playing for the team too. And I just, I remember that to this day because these guys became coaches and Kay works for the NHL hockey ops. And, I have a great relationship with those guys, just.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Joel Quenville is just like, he would give it to you hard as a coach.
Yeah.
Really hard. And you know what? You give it back. And then you'd come out of the start of third period and you look at it and you say, "Are we cool?"
Yeah, sounds like
I said, "We're good, man." Yeah. We're good.
Yeah.
Solid job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he was the assistant coach player with the Leafs here, was he not?
He was, yep.
Yeah.
Assistant coach and playing the same time, yeah.
That first year here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a weird situation.
It is, yeah. You don't see that much anymore.
No.
Any coaches that were particularly hard? I shouldn't say hard to get along with. They're all gentlemen at the end of the day. But was there a guy that you're like, oh damn it, I got to officiate this game tonight, and he's behind the bench.
Bob Hartley was a pain in the ass.
Oh yeah,
I could absolutely see
Colorado, like
yeah,
just bitching and chewing, and he knew me because he coached in Hershey, and he knew I lived in this area, and I guess, I don't know if he was looking for a break or what, because we were in the same city together, but yeah, old Bob, he was a bit of pain. And me and Mark Crawford, we kind of went at it pretty good.
Oh yeah.
He was, when he was coaching Colorado, because I think you remember that game in Detroit.
Oh, it was against Colorado, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's
Detroit and Colorado. Remember McCarty? He just jumped Lemieux.
Yeah.
Just kicked the shit out of him.
Oh, he did, yeah.
And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking on the back of my head, I go, this guy's got it coming.
Yeah.
Like from what he did to Draper the game before when he split him wide open. And
yeah.
Like, I don't know if you ever saw the picture, but he was.
Yeah.
And Lemieux just went on and said, "Oh, it was a good hit." Well, it was total instigator, and I got stubborn, and I said, "I'm not kicking him out."
So, that's what the game needs.
I gave Lemieux 5 for fighting, basically 5 for receiving, and McCarty got 5 for fighting, plus a 2-minute instigator and a 10-minute misconduct, which it should have been a game misconduct.
Yeah.
But and guess who scores the freaking goal in overtime? Darren McCarty.
Oh, McCarty, yeah. Just yeah. So I come off the ice, and GM for Colorado standing at the referee's door.
Pierre Lacroix, was it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And he just scowling at me. I says, "Hey Pierre, how's it going, buddy?" Walks right into the room and shut the door.
Oh no.
Got a call from Brian Burke the next day, he was our boss then in the NHL. And he said, "Jesus Christ, Devo. Do you think you could have called a couple more penalties?" I said, "Yeah, I could have, Berkey, He's all right."
Yeah.
And to this day, they keep showing that game all the time.
Oh my God. I watch the highlights. I'm willing to bet once or twice a month. It just pops up on my newsfeed on Facebook, and I
I
just can't
just
help
remember
myself.
Mark Crawford standing up on the bench. Like he's back. He's basically up on the boards and he's screaming at me like, why wasn't an instigator? And I'm not giving one.
But that rivalry lasted for 3, 4, 5 years. That was vicious.
It was.
Yeah.
That was 80s hockey. That was the closest to 80s hockey that you would find.
Oh yeah.
In this era.
And it's funny, I was supervising in Detroit last year, and I kind of just found a place. It was during the COVID when there wasn't many fans in there, and so they let me sit in this little, well, what it was Detroit alumni's box.
Oh yeah.
And I'm sitting there just watching the game, and all of a sudden this guy comes up and gives me a hug, and it's Darren McCarty.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
He says, man, I love you. So, I mean, if I did that today, I'd probably get fired.
Oh my God.
What I did on the ice.
Yeah. Oh, for what they get, like, for, like, you know, you see how much pressure they're under these days, and the scrutiny is just constant. Yeah. So everyone's out for a head.
Was there a 2-referee system in that during that game?
No.
Or was no, not yet. So that was all on you.
Scampanello on the lines and Dan Shakti.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a handful.
Your memory is impressive to me. I don't know how, like, I can't remember the guys I just played softball with tonight. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, that's one game I remember. You could ask me about other games, and
but the big ones.
Yeah.
Any other games that really stood out in your mind like that, though, Paul? Anything that you know, I don't know, maybe fond memories of when you look back at your career and you say, man, what an honor to be part of that particular game, you know?
Well, there's a funny story. George McPhee and we played junior together in Guelph.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
We grew up together. We played like all-star Pee Wee midget, junior A, and then he went on Bowling Green, and then pros, and then I went into refereeing, and then, you know, we still hook up. I was his best man in his wedding.
Oh wow!
Although I didn't make it.
Okay.
I was trying to get a flight from San Jose, and I missed the flight. So Pat Quinn stood in for me at the wedding.
That's a good one.
The funny story with Pat Quinn was he was coaching Toronto one time, and it was Valentine's Day. So I'm just walking around day game, and I'm thinking, Valentine's Day. So I think I'm going to get Pat Quinn a Valentine's card.
That's awesome.
So I get him a card, sign it, and the trainers always come over before the game and see if we need anything. Yeah, so I give him the card, and I skate out before the game, and he is just howling. And he's you are nuts, you know? So as the game gets going, first 5 pounds against Toronto. So it's at the end of the second, and he calls me over, and he says, I thought you were just going to kiss me when you gave me the card. I didn't know you were going to smack me up the ass.
Oh, the big Irishman.
That's awesome.
Oh,
yeah.
And then
man.
I came out later, and we were laughing about it and that. So it was good.
He was the best.
It was good. Yeah.
It really was.
I had drinks with Pat Quinn. He was a speaker here in St. John's a number of years ago. Had the opportunity to bring him to the airport, and stories he told me about when he was kind of left management in Toronto, and John Ferguson Jr. came in, and how it was done over an IQ test and all that. Just an amazing man. Lots of stories.
Yeah.
He was heavily involved in there.
Yeah, he was a good man. He gave me shit for not being there on time at George's wedding. Jesus Christ, you can't even be on time for the wedding. Sorry, Pat.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. Anybody from your
So-
playing days or your coach refereeing jet days that you still stay in contact with regularly? Do you know guys that you really connected with and maintain that connection?
When playing or reffing?
Well, reffing.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm really good friends with like Stephen Wackham, Wes McCauley,
Yeah.
Derek Amell, some of the senior guys.
Yeah.
We keep in touch, and then
That's awesome.
but I'm always seeing these guys because I see them when I'm supervising, right? So
Yeah.
I saw most of these guys during the playoffs, so that was good.
Yeah, that's nice. That's what I want to ask you actually. So if you could explain just for the sake of our listeners, what it is that you're doing now in the supervision position.
Well, what we're start on the 19th of this month, August. We have a combine in Buffalo.
Mhm.
Yep.
And we're bringing in 90 kids. They're not kids. They're actually most of them now are all ex-hockey players coming out of college or the ECHL or the American League. And they all want to try to get in. So that's where we're all getting all our prospects now.
Wow.
All the guys we hire are mostly ex-hockey players.
Mhm.
Oh wow. So you actually have a combine and
Yeah. And there's 90 guys coming up there, and we'll probably have 6-7 supervisors there watching, to grade them, and we'll find out, who we want. But during this season, I'm there to evaluate the game. I usually go to a game where there's a young guy working.
Yeah.
Because I work with all the young guys, and most of the time it's a young guy working with a senior guy, and I go there and then evaluate the game, and then go down and talk to them after the game. And like sometimes it's not good news. I remember one night I went down after a playoff game in Philadelphia, and it was 2 senior guys working, and I said, "Holy shit, guys." I said, "You missed 5 penalties tonight." Like I said, flagrant penalties. And you should have seen their heads drop. And like they all thought they were going home. Like, because if you don't perform in the playoffs, you come out the end of the round, you go home.
Yeah,
well, they went on because they recouped the next game and got better. But I mean, that's the only way to approach these guys. Like, you can't sugarcoat it. You got to tell them, like, listen, you really missed that tonight.
Well,
And they have the opportunity to go back in the room and look on their iPad and watch the play, and they go, no, you'll get an email later and say, "Oh shit, thanks, Devo. I didn't see that on the ice." I says, "Yeah, I know you did."
Yeah. And I know people say it's just a game, but I mean, how many millions of dollars are pumped into each and every single game? So it's kind of high pressure.
Oh,
so like I said, people miss calls, and it's just not like a regular job. You just go back and do better tomorrow a lot of the times.
right.
Yeah.
And that's the aspect of refereeing that I've always found fascinating, is that I don't know what would draw someone to want to be a referee to begin with. It's got to be one of the most thankless jobs on the planet.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, you're never going to make anybody happy.
You know what?
Everybody hates you at some point.
My dad, like I said, I was at home and I watched my dad leave 5 nights a week and go pick up 2 linesmen and drive to Burlington, drive to Oakville. And I was saying, that's not for me. So then I played junior. I played 4 years junior in Guelph, and then 2 years senior in Durham. Oh, and then 1 year in Dundas. And then I just had enough. And one day, a reporter puts in the paper, and I never said, he says, Devorski hangs up stick to grab a whistle to start officiating. And then somebody called me and I said, oh, I might as well. I guess I will. So
Okay.
I went down to the OHA clinic and tried that. And then I got hired on by the OHL and you know, because being on the ice, you pick up the rules and that real quick.
Yeah.
It's more the positioning and that kind of shit, you know, that you need to work on. So, and that's how I got into it. And I, like, to this day, somebody says like, well, how'd you like your job? And I says, well, it really wasn't a job. I says, I was out there having fun, skating, carrying on with the guys, and just, you know, it wasn't a job.
Well, if you didn't have fun, it would probably be quite a novel job, because a lot of people barking at you, and
oh my God,
you didn't have to see the positive side. That would be who would want to go to work every morning with that happening?
No.
Well, I know they used to bark a lot, but I was one of the biggest barkers back. Like,
that brings me to a question that I've been dying to ask, because it's one of those iconic I don't recall the game, but I remember seeing the highlight 150 times where Tortorella is just giving it to you, just absolutely ripping you a new one. You skate back to the linesman, you're like, that guy's a fucking asshole. I can't read lips that well, but I got that much. So what was said, or Cole's notes anyway, in that exchange?
I went over to the bench because I had given, I don't know if you remember, but I had given their team 2 5-minute majors on the clock. So they were down 5-on-3, and Torts is yelling, and he won't stop. So I go over and I'm standing there, and he says, you don't have the balls to throw me out, Devo. I says, yeah, I do, Torts, but I says, I want to keep you around so I can watch when your team gets their ass kicked.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I can look in your face.
That was well received.
God, he just walked away, and to this day, Tortorella and I are great friends.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know, it was during the game, and then after the game, it's Devo, we're done. You know.
Yeah.
So
I've heard the same thing too. I mean, I've been kicking around, like I've done prior to the podcast. I used to do a lot of hockey writing, and I got to interview a few people who in the know, you know, who've met or interacted with Tortorella, and they all say the exact same thing: is that he's hot under the collar in the moment, but one of the most gentlemanly person you'd ever want to meet. I'd love to meet the guy someday for that reason.
Oh my God, just an unbelievable guy. You know,
he just has the bench character, right?
And absolutely love him.
That's all we see of him.
So, Paul, a quick question, not a side note as such, but so I assume you were a big hockey fan growing up, and I'm going to make another assumption that you were a fan of the Leafs if you're so close to the Toronto area. Is that fact, or I'm going somewhere with this, but that would be correct. Okay, so so like. And I always found it difficult. And you hear the Bob McKenzie's and the Darren Dragers of the world. Bob McKenzie's been pretty vocal on in his role with TSN and having to be impartial and not being a fan of a particular game anymore, and trying to maintain that impartiality and all those things. Like, how difficult was that? Like, assuming you were a big hockey fan growing up, did you find that a challenge?
Not then so much. I do find it now though. Like. Now when I turn on and I get on, you know, SN Sports and get on and I listen to all these quotes, and, you know, I listen to what they said about Chris Lee in the Montreal series. Like, he didn't call this, he didn't call that. Well, for the, you know, half of the plays they showed were dives, you know, it was a little shove from behind. And, you know, it just, they really dissect the game.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't know where, you know, they get their talent from. Like, how can they do this? Like, they've never skated. None of them never been on the ice. Right. And like, don't get me wrong, they're all good guys, but like, I'll tell you what, like that Canadian media, like it just chewed up Chris Lee in the finals, and like that really hurt him.
Yeah,
you know?
I'm sure it does.
Yeah.
It's definitely something you can take personally, I'm sure, because it's such a high stakes thing and people get hurt.
What is it, Paul? I wonder, like, in your opinion, I mean, this is a completely subjective question, but like, it seems like officiating in the NHL in particular is under more fire now, I think, than it's ever been when it comes to just, I don't know if it's a social media aspect where everyone's got an opinion, or there's 103 cameras where when you were officiating in the late 80s, early 90s, there was 3, you know what I mean? Like, is there more emphasis put on because of the amount of information that's out there for people to get access to?
I have no idea, like, because I know our standard, our standard is tight. Like, and now this year we're going to implement another, on cross-checking, when the defenseman's in front of the net and cross-checking the guy, like, okay, you can't do that. You can push them, but you can't cross-check them. So we're going to go over that with our guys. And, but it's funny. I live down here in the States. I don't hear any of this crap when I listen to sports, Sportsnet or.
No.
I'll say it is disappointing to see the Canadian media react that way about officiating, of all things to focusing on during the playoffs.
Exactly.
Well, they know that controversy makes money, and there's nothing more controversial than the Leafs and Habs. And there's, the media literally owns the team and half the Habs. So, I mean,
and they don't want to, they don't want to write bad about a player on, in the Toronto game or the Montreal game, because, they won't get access to them or whatever. So what do they find? They find the referees. Well, I mean, we've been doing that for a long time.
Yes.
But it just, this year in the playoffs was just nuts up there.
Oh, it's full on forensic investigations going on for every single game. It is a lot. It's taken, like, you need to take your break in the summer then if it's that much all the time.
Yeah.
So, Paul, my neighbor is going to love this question because it's kind of the same type of topic around the playoffs. He's a big football fan. And in his mind, I'm not a football fan whatsoever. Officiating in the regular season versus the postseason, totally the same. Whereas in hockey, the whistle tends to be put away a little bit more or a whole lot more in the playoffs. Is that real? It looks real, like stuff that you'd get away with. You get away with a lot more in the playoffs. Suspensions are a lot less for the same thing that you would do. I know it's a shortened playoff season.
And overtime as well.
Is that a thing? Is that a miss? Where does that come from? Putting the whistle away in the playoffs?
I think that's from back in the day, when we let everything go. And like in today's game, like I know, like if guys didn't call penalties going through the first 3 rounds, they were going home and they weren't going to the finals.
Right.
And that's
good to hear.
Because if I'm there at the game and we have a logger at the game and he's watching the game, and I know my boss, Stevie Walkham's watching a game, he's seeing the same thing that the guy missed on the ice. And right. So yes, we really bring that to light to them, like, because guys, this is not a different standard than we had April 14th when the season ended. This is the same standard,
Yeah, same rule.
And it's really funny because, like, in the media, a lot of times too, you'll hear who are the referees accountable to? Who are they accountable? There's your answer. There is a system in place of accountability here. It's not
course,
it's
yeah.
not just a free for all for these guys to do
And
as they
just
wish.
so you know, there is a supervisor at every playoff game. So, for example, the first round I had Washington, Boston. I had the whole series. Came home for a day, and then I went to Boston, and then Boston, New York Island. And then came home, and then I went to the island and had the island in Tampa, or I went to Tampa. And then when the finals came, I was done, but I was at every game. So I could see, every official and let the other officials coming in for the next game, give them a heads up what happened last game.
So any chance that a supervisor will ever be involved, like watching from like off the ice, or is it always going to be an on ice thing? Because I don't know, I read something years ago about having an official off the ice that can see the whole surface at all times. Like, can you see the game going to that?
I don't know if you know, but during the season, when it's a regular season, every game in the season, there's a ex-referee sitting in the war room in Toronto.
Yes.
Watching the video, and they have access to get on the headset with the referee on the ice. So once a month on a regular season, I would be in Toronto for 7 nights in the war room, and then I come home and I go back to my regular schedule. So every game that you're watching, there's an ex-referee on the headset in Toronto watching the game. So he can help out on the ice.
Will they ever be able to call a play down and like say, no, that was a bad high stick, 4 minute, like just?
Oh yeah.
They will be able to stop a play.
The rules like that, like when they come and say, is it 2 minute, is it 4 minute high stick, or is it a major? And they say, it's only a minor. So you still have to assess the penalty, even if it was nothing. You have to give the minor, but you can always reduce the 5 minute down to 2, or the 4 minute down to 2.
I was just wondering, at any point in the game, is that ex-referee supervisor going to be able to like interrupt play and say, no, that guy's got to go to the bench, like that was a penalty, he missed it? I just don't know if they'll ever do it.
That far yet.
No, I've read about it. They have talked about it years ago, and they've been looking at having sometimes multiple refs in different corners of the rink to see all angles. But it's not there yet.
To me, when I hear kind of ideas getting tossed around, like logistically, I say, okay, this makes sense. But I think back to, again, the era when Paul would have been refereeing, when it was a one referee. I mean, I know today's NHL is so fast. One guy would have a hard time keeping up, I think. But when I think back to when everything was a little more simple, it seemed like there was a lot less controversy. With all these stoppages in play and then coaches' challenges and all this bullshit, is, to me as a fan, it's absolutely killing the sport. It grades at my soul when there's a coach's challenge of any sort. The offside challenge 2 years ago was just absolutely brutal. That was the worst. That was the worst thing that the NHL has ever put in, and no one will ever talk me out of that next to the shootout. I don't like the shootout either.
Foot in the crease, though.
But which leads me to my question, Paul. I mean, you work for the NHL, but that doesn't mean you necessarily agree with everything that they've ever did in the history of the league. Is there any rules that have been put in place from the time you started till the time you finished up, do you say, I don't know, maybe that was a little counterproductive to what we're trying to accomplish?
You know what? I really don't think so. Because of the speed of the game now, like if you can't skate, you're not going to be able to play in the NHL. So if you look now at today's game, the players are a lot smaller. Yes. We don't have the Dave Browns out there.
No.
Brown, you know what I mean? The big guys, fighters and that. We don't have that. It's all about speed. And that's what we're trying to do, is to keep that speed up. So then we brought in the slashing, like when you slash a guy on the hand, like on the glove, like we used to allow that, but now it's a penalty.
That's right. Yeah. So you were saying the big guys, back in the Scott Stevens days, how like were you viewing that? Like, I know myself as a kid, I love Rock'em Sock. I mean, I loved it, but it got to a point, like as a young guy, I was like, man, he's really messing people up. Like, that has intentions not to take you out of the game. I'm going to take you out of your life. Like, what the hell? Like, you know, I'm gonna mess your shit up forever. And I just don't know. Like, how did it feel? Like, I mean, you're obviously aware and you're watching for it every game. But did they wait too long to change that rule?
No, I think they brought it in like now, you know, anytime there's a headshot or checking from behind, or like we're calling it, you know, did they wait too long? I don't know. I mean, I always liked watching the open ice Scott Stevens hit, you know, at the time. Today, I mean, would he get away with it? Probably not. Like when he knocked Korea out, like he'd be gone.
Yeah, that one's still like
it was a headshot and, you know, 5 in game and gone. But back in the day, that was a good legal check.
It was, yeah. I think they were saying it was their fault.
Today.
It was Korea's fault for not having his head up, right? That's why it was viewed, not the guy that was lurking and literally trying to decapitate you.
But and that's all the NHL's doing now is trying to prevent head injuries from these guys getting hit, like, you know,
especially at the speed now.
Cross and throwing his shoulder into your chin while you're not looking, and bang, like you're knocked out. Like, frick, that's automatic. You're gonna get 4 games for that.
Yeah.
You know, so I really like what they've done that way.
Yeah.
You know,
getting there.
Paul, a question I've had on my mind for some time is one thing that I there's a lot of things I don't understand in the game, but can you give any explanation to the whole tripping dive sequence or the hooking dive sequence? Because in my mind, it doesn't make sense how both guys get that penalty. You either trip or you dive. What's the rationale from an officiating perspective?
Well, when you're on the ice, and I gotta, you know, they're not quite sure, like they're not quite sure whether the guy tripped him or not, but they do see the embellishment. But what I've been telling the guys, I said, guys, when you can do it, just call the embellishment.
Yeah.
Because we don't need this game getting like to soccer.
No.
Or when there's guys rolling around the ice and grabbing their face, and when you see the replay, nothing hit them.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, and I think our guys are trying to get, like, I see more guys trying to do that. Just say, hey, you know what? I'm taking you. And you know what? I'm going to put you in the box and embarrass you. You die. And I can't stand it. Like, it just really hurts our game, the way these guys go down.
And it stops the play all the time too. And it's just, it just ruins the game. Yeah, I agree. So there's a lot of good players at that though. Like, who are the good ones at hiding the embellishments?
Tough question.
Oh, I better not say any names.
Okay, I was wondering. I even said to Ron, like, should I ask for names or not?
Yeah, throw the guest under the bus. I love it.
No, it's all right. I mean,
yeah,
you know who's full of shit and who's not. You can have a beer about it afterwards.
Yeah, because I'll get a call from a GM tomorrow. You son of a bitch.
Hopefully we got the GMs listening to this show. Hey, Ryan.
Yeah, if we get to that level, I think we're doing okay.
You can call me.
Who listens to this show?
Well, me and Paddy and Chad mostly.
Well, I mean, actually, you got to have viewers, right?
Yeah, we do. We got a decent demographic, actually. We get, thanks to the internet being what it is, we can get analytics from all of our podcast listeners, because obviously podcasts are made more for listeners than viewers. We do both, but our listeners, the major demographic is Southern Ontario and Newfoundland.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a big.
Not much in New York then.
Not much, no. I
Where
think
my
you're safe.
head office is?
Yeah.
No, and I think because we're such Leafs fans, we run like Leafs groups and stuff like that. That's typically where we share a lot of these shows, places that we're familiar and people know us anyway.
Right.
We don't just randomly toss up in the sites where we don't know, or it could be like we're not going to toss this up, and I don't even know where else where we go.
No,
I'm not that
it
media
is what it
savage,
is.
but we get Toronto listeners and we get Newfoundland listeners, and yeah, we're cool with that. That's pretty much us.
And some dude in South
Right on.
Australia. I don't know.
And there's somebody in South Australia that keeps watching.
Who watches every episode. So, like, oh, whatever.
Yeah,
No,
man.
it's been going good for us, Paul, and we're really happy you could have come along today. It's been a real treat for us, guys. Do you have anything else?
No,
You
it's
wanted
good talking to
chat
you
with?
guys.
Yeah,
Like,
it was good.
you're all good guys. Holy
Yeah,
shit.
we'll get back down to Newfoundland and hit up George Street again.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, when you coming this way, Paul? When do you get home very often? Get back to Guelph very often?
I got home. On the 15th of July for the first time since the
So it went
bubble.
down.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Because I left last year, September 1st, my mother's house, came home, year went by, and I finally got up. So
Yeah.
I'm going to try to get up. We got the combine next weekend, and then after that, there's a big party at my sister's house. I'm in Buffalo. It's only an hour and a half away. I'll go there and hang out.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So the last thing I want to ask you about is, so now I won't say retired, because I mean, you're still working with the league and whatnot, but in your off time now, what are you doing in your off time? What's the Paul Devorski time killer? You got any big hobbies that you're taking up in your almost retirement years?
Get up at 7:30. I'm at the gym by 8:15. Work out for an hour. Come home. Fart around, do some chores. Try to have a little nap at noon, and then go out. I like to golf and that,
Yeah.
So my son's living down in Orlando. He's doing his doctorate down there.
Oh, nice.
He got a full scholarship, so I've been going down to see him quite a bit. And
Awesome.
How's your daughter?
he's
I know
gonna
she's
2 years. He's gonna be a professor. So,
wow.
oh my God,
Wow.
he didn't get it from me.
And what about your daughter? How's she doing? Like, I mean, she must be getting. Well, the last time I've seen a picture of your daughter was at your last game, and she was just a young girl then.
Oh yeah, Ellie, she's 16.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, she's 16, going on 21.
Good for her.
Yeah. Like an 8-year-old. Yeah. An
Yeah.
8-year-old going on 16.
Bro, same thing going on 16.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I got going on.
Well, say hello to your family for us, and let them all know that if they make their way to the Rock, that they're more than welcome.
Devorski's welcome.
DSC, and we'll take care of them, show them around, just like their old man got showed around. So,
all right, thanks, guys.
no, we really appreciate you making the time, Paul.
Yeah.
Come on.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you. Take care.
Have a good night.
Bye bye.
That was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah.
He was good.
Yeah, I didn't realize, man, that guy, like, everybody loves that guy. The more I read about him, I was like, man, everybody just loved him. He wasn't one of the controversial guys like Van Helmond that everybody hated.
And the only thing I didn't get a chance to ask him about, I wanted to, was because I mean, Billy Guerin, when he retired, talked about him being the great communicator. And
Billy Guerin ran up to him after he won the cup.
Yeah.
Because he took his son on the ice when he shouldn't have, but Billy Guerin ran up to him. It was a cool thing to see. Like, he was just such a well-respected, nice liked guy. So,
and again, as a common theme, folks, for anybody who's listened to our podcast or has in the past, we only have great guys. That's it. That's all we get here, and soon some great ladies, because we're a couple of nobodies from Newfoundland, just starting out in the podcasting. But anybody who agrees to come on here, they got to be good guys to start with, or they wouldn't be bothering with us. So, all you bad guys out there who are not returning my messages, you know who you are.
Yeah.
Enough said. But no, Paul, true gentleman. He was excited to come on and chat with us for a bit, and great to get his perspective on the game. And I don't know how you guys felt about it, but that was
man,
awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I love the stories, the Tortorella story. That was fantastic. And you know what I'm most impressed with, and I totally understand where he's coming from, because they are barking down their throats the whole game. Fans, players, coaches. And the fact that he gives it back just as good as they can give it to him is probably what's made him so successful, and probably the reason why he's got so much respect that he didn't take it. So, yeah, I know, very, very impressive. And it's super impressive that he reffed that Colorado Detroit.
I did not know
game.
that.
That was
and
what
like,
a
trying to
moment.
haul those guys apart. Can you imagine watching Paddy?
Yeah,
You know,
and Vernon.
and that big old like collision with Shanahan. It's like,
Yeah.
So he was there. Analyzed. That's pretty sick.
1,500 games, man. Imagine 1,500.
Almost 16, isn't it?
Almost 16. A couple of games short of 1,600. Just astounding. Over 200, almost 200 playoff games. You know.
Well, he moved to Hershey. I think Van Helmond told him to move to Hershey. Did you see that? Yeah,
No,
it said it's strategic for like being a home base, so you could get all of the surrounding areas and get all the games. So if you're closer to the cities, you get called for the games. So he had.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so he had Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Washington, New York, everything at his fingertips. So that was a Van Helmond tip.
Wow.
It's really funny though, because I remember watching Devorski in a lot of the Leafs games growing up. I mean, he was,
of course,
he was in
the
Toronto
name is
more often
household.
than not as well. So again, being in the same division too as the Bostons and everything else on the road, we used to get Devorski a lot as well. And again, he's just one of those guys that sticks out to me as one that didn't screw us.
Yeah.
He was just a good dude. Obviously well respected by the players, and it's easy to see why. So, all right, guys. So if you enjoyed the show, first of all, if you didn't enjoy the show, you can go to hell. But if you did enjoy the show, give it a like, give it a share. We'd really appreciate that. Any kind of little bit of a bump you can give us on social media gets it out there, and we can do more great guest content like we just did. You can find us at www.deaksnipeselly.ca. That's our major online presence, I guess, when it comes to where we put everything. We've got memes there. We've got articles.
That's the HQ.
Yeah, that's HQ for us. We're also on Twitter at SillyDeke. We're terrible at that. Follow us. Throw us a pity follow or something. We don't do a ton on Twitter, but we're breaking into it now, and we've got some good content going out on Twitter as well. All of our videos, of course, you can find it on YouTube. You search Deke Snipe Silly, and on Facebook, facebook.com/DekeSnipeSilly. You'll get everything there as well. So we do have an Instagram account up. You can search us up there, Deke Snipe Silly on Instagram. All of our memes are there. And of course, if you're a listener of the podcast, which most people are who follow us, you can get us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, you name it, we're there. Wherever you listen to your podcast, you're going to get Deke Snipe Silly. So again, thanks so much. If you haven't done so already on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. It's right there. No, there. I can never figure which way to point. There. Yeah, in the middle between me and Chad. All right, guys.
Fidgets.
Fidgets. Well, I'm all done. So, peace out.
Cheers.